The Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spot Track Podcast. I'm Kevin Sylvester, along with Paul Peck and the founder of SpotTrack.com, Mike Giannetti, and we're brought to you by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment, empowering professional athletes and entertainers with the knowledge they need to make the best informed decisions about their finances and wealth. Learn more. Visit morganstanley.com/GSE, Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC. Member SIPC. We are fresh off the holiday, but Paul, you and I are not fresh off a half marathon.
We are not, no. And we nor will you likely ever say that I am fresh off a half marathon, but someone in this group is.
I don't think I'm fresh off anything.
Yeah.
I'm recovering from a half marathon.
Well, if you had to pick out of Paul and me, the next one to run the half marathon, it's Paul, just by physique.
You think so?
Well, you know what? Actually, this would be a good bet, actually. I may not look like I'm in cardio shape, but I am. So
you got to get angry about mile 8, though. You
know
what
I
mean? Yeah, you just got to tunnel vision.
Okay,
because it hurts.
Oh, I bet it does. Yeah, I bet it does.
Was that the first one you've done?
No, this is my 7th.
Oh, okay. So what are we talking about? It's not that big a deal.
They're not getting easier.
Well, you know it's not going to be easy. I don't think the NBA Finals are going to be easy between the Warriors and Raptors.
Are we sure about that? Because I feel like a lot of times we go into this thinking, oh, it's going to be a great series, and then the Warriors just win in 4 games or 5.
Well, but here's the thing. Kawhi Leonard has been unbelievable.
I feel a lot better about Toronto than I would have Milwaukee.
Yes,
does that seem ridiculous?
Yes. No, it's not ridiculous.
It's because of defense.
Correct.
It's because Kawhi can shut down these guards, and I'm not sure anyone in Milwaukee could. The Milwaukee guards just fell off the face of the earth.
Well, look at it this way. That Milwaukee didn't have anybody that could guard Kawhi.
Right.
Right? And Kawhi can guard Seth Curry. Right? Or Klay Thompson.
And Toronto did a nice job in defending as a group or with Kawhi or whomever was doing it of Giannis.
Well, let's give some credit there. That was a game plan that I'm not sure a lot of teams could figure out and execute, and they executed. They had players who could trap him, who could literally took him out of a game at the end of Game 5.
Yes.
Literally took him out of a game. That's standing ovation worthy. That's good stuff. But now it's going to be tougher now. Is it easier if Kevin Durant is here for Toronto? For Toronto.
If Kevin Durant's in the game,
it's a crazy good question.
It's so guard heavy now, right? And Kawhi can't stop them all, obviously. Look, let's get there.
Think about
Kevin Durant.
Well, let me understand the question again. You're saying if Kevin Durant was
an easier team to guard when Kevin Durant is in, because there's more of a balance of power, right? Whereas now, you have to shut down the guards, and in doing so, you're trapping high all the time and leaving that inside open. That's when you're Kevin Looney's and those, those no-namers for Golden State have 20 points, 10 boards, and win games. I think if Kevin Durant's there, Kawhi's guarding him.
Ooh.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah. He was able to guard Giannis.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, because you got to figure Curry's going to get his points.
He's going to.
Right? Curry's getting his points.
15, 20% more now.
Yes. And if you could take Durant out, right?
Yeah.
But he's tough to defend. He'd
He is.
shoot over everybody.
Impossible.
But I also feel when Durant's in the game, there's a lot of ISOs. There's more. I feel there's more ISOs with Durant than there is when he's out of the lineup.
It's a very unselfish team, and it's to their detriment sometimes.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Steph Curry will shoot all the time, but he'll pass too, right? I mean, they move the ball. Klay Thompson, he sits there and waits for the ball to come to him, and when he does, he's deadly. Right now, those two have more of a job to do, and that's better basketball for that team right now, to your point.
Yeah.
It's not ISO basketball.
No, which is ISO basketball, so...
It's not fun to watch.
It's only great
It really isn't.
It's only great when it's incredible. Right? It's only great when Harden has 50 in the first half.
Well,
right?
It's only great when a great offensive player... See, now, this is where if Leonard on Durant, and if they're going back and forth, like I think of that playoff game many moons ago. You youngsters, look this one up. Larry Bird against Dominique Wilkins. Remember the Celtics? They both had like 50 or high 40s. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome game.
Yeah, well, which also always makes you think of the old adage about do you always want your best offensive player guarding the team's best defensive player because it takes more energy to be a really good defensive player. So do you want to focus Kawhi offense and not give him a ridiculous amount of defensive
I
responsibility?
don't think you need to ask that question this year. He
seems to be willing to do it.
He's doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe not next year, but right now he's in that zone.
Well, the other thing that is fascinating about, and we're going to get into this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a series where marquee players are due for some cash.
You've got arguably the top 2 pending free agents in the offseason playing in the finals. That's something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Well,
which is
maybe not playing.
Well,
Durant,
one is may not play at all, and at this point, you're like, and by the way, Golden State fans, you should not fear Kevin Durant leaving now, right? Look what they've done without him.
I don't know. We'll talk about it. Let's talk the money.
I'm not sure you can write the answer to that
Let's talk
question
the money
yet.
first. It seems so silly. It's so silly to have this conversation, and everybody's having this conversation.
We
We'll get
love
to it.
silly conversations.
We'll get to it. Let's talk some quick money. Not too much of a variance. You would think that Golden State and those big, Steph Curry contracts and whatnot would have them way ahead. They're not too much farther ahead. I mean, Kyle Lowry's overpaid. Kawhi's on a sophomore contract, so he's paid pretty well. It's about a $12 million difference in terms of these 2 payrolls with Golden State on top. The starting 5 is a little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include this $91 million for the starting 5 of Golden State does not include Durant, does not include DeMarcus Cousins. So,
okay.
I mean, it could be way, way worse. So 91 for the starting 5 essentially for game 1, whereas Toronto's starting 5 72.5. So that's where it's sort of, in essence, the payroll for Toronto is reliant on a bench, on a deeper bench. Serge Ibaka comes off the bench at like $21 million, things like that, which is not a terrible way to build a team if you're not built like Golden State, which nobody is, So, the money is there. The payrolls for next year look very, very similar. It's about $2.5 million difference is all because many of their big players are off the board right now. I'm not including Kevin Durant. I'm not including Klay Thompson, not including Kawhi Leonard, obviously, and not including Marc Gasol. Those are the 4 big names here sort of in limbo, we think. I mean, can we just assume Klay Thompson's probably staying home?
I would think so, right?
It doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. He seems like a pretty laid-back guy.
Does it depend on Durant's situation?
I think from a reverse angle, we'll have that discussion in a little bit here.
Okay.
I want to talk about that. But let's talk about Klay because it's a pretty good transition into what sort of unfolded last week. This Supermax situation, you can take it's starting to get into franchise tag company here is where we are. Do we need it? Is it built the right way? Is it doing the right thing? Here's the breakdown of how this works. In order to qualify for a Supermax, you have to be less than 9 years of experience. If you're 9+ years of experience, you're already a qualifier for 35% of the salary cap, which is how this works. All of these different tiered levels of max contracts are based on how long you've been playing the game. And it's a percentage of the league salary cap. So that's why it's every time we throw like projected numbers out for 2021-22 salaries, it's only projections because we need to know the actual league salary cap to be able to pull back the official numbers. So it's 25%, 30%, 35%. Those are the max contract levels.
And that's with if you stay with your team?
No, it can be for either. The difference between staying with your team is 5 years to stay, 4 years to go.
Gotcha.
So they tack on an extra year if you stay with your team. But the Supermax is only if you're with your team.
Gotcha.
So that's why Kawhi does not qualify, even though he's been Defensive Player of the Year and All-NBA, all the qualifications. Because he was traded, he no longer qualifies for the Supermax eligibility. And this would be his 8th year of eligibility. So he would have been, if he was in San Antonio right now, he'd be eligible for the Supermax contract. Klay Thompson was going to be eligible. Here's the criteria real quick. In order to qualify for this max contract, you've got to be an All-NBA player 2 of the last 3 years. You've got to be an NBA MVP in any of the last 3 years, or you've got to be NBA Defensive Player of the Year in 2 of the last 3 seasons. So it's
wow.
It seems impossible, but there's plenty of guys. I mean, the All-NBA team is 3 separate teams, right? So 15 players.
Right.
And
first, second, or third team.
And it's positional based, which can get a little cloudy.
Correct.
Because what is LeBron, right?
Yeah. What is Kevin Durant?
Right?
Positions have never been more less easily defined than they ever have been before.
There's no question. So that's problem number 1 with this whole process is they slot these 15 players in whatever positions they think. Which we've had this conversation with the franchise tag. Am I an outside linebacker or a defensive end? Right. I mean, there's a lot of similarities as we sort of unfold these things, but. That's the criteria, right? The main way that guys have qualified for these Supermax deals is they're, all NBA players, first, second, third team for a couple of years in a row. We all assumed Klay Thompson was going to qualify this year. He had a great year, sort of an underrated great year, especially with the injuries to Curry and to Durant, sort of in different phases. He sort of held this team up for a little bit here.
Yeah,
jump in.
Yeah. So is it any of these, or is it two of the three?
Any of them.
Any of them. So if you're all NBA in 2 of the last 3 years, you qualify.
Kemba Walker, yeah.
Yeah, or if you're the NBA MVP, which if you are, you're going to be on the all-team. Anyways, same thing with Defensive Player of the Year, most likely, right?
Yeah.
But it's any of those 3 criterion.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
To me, the Defensive Player of the Year one is the most interesting because I think that's, as much as we could argue most valuable player, the defensive one is a little arbitrary sometimes, right?
Because they don't play defense.
Well, that's part of it, Kevin. Yes, you're right. But what kind of defense? If you're a great rebounder, does that make you a great defensive player? If you're if you can shut down the other team's star player, that's clearly a good. That to me, if you ask me how do you define that, I'd mumble my way through an answer for you right now, and I don't know that the people that vote on it have a clear, unless there's a clear description of it. How do you always define that?
So it's all
objective.
Objective for sure.
That's the point here.
So, that's part of the point. So, Klay Thompson, explain what happened to him this year.
Yeah, so like I said, we sort of all assumed this was going to be his 2 out of 3 All-NBA teams as he's ready for a new contract, by the way, expiring contract. Didn't make any of the 3 squads. Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker, a bunch of guards jumped above him. He was left off. He loses $30 million in potential money.
Wow.
His 5-year deal is now $191 instead of $221.
Who votes for the All-NBA team?
That's the problem.
That's a big problem.
All right. It's guys that could be like you and me, who watch these games on TV. It's a variety of people, but I can't say it's the wrong group of people, but when you're dictating these kind of dollars, this process is flawed. There's no question. No matter who's voting, right? Even if it was the players voting, that's flawed.
They would have bias. Sure.
Yeah, of
coaches, should it be
Maybe.
personnel, GM guy? Problem. It's media guys. It's a lot of beat writers. I would assume, right? The problem always is, Kevin, and you know this.
Beef.
When you're covering a team, you don't always see everybody else. You might see the Warriors the 2 or 3 times your team plays them, or when you have the occasion to watch a game on television. So sometimes when you're a beat writer for an individual team, you're the worst person to decide the rest of the league.
I used to have a vote for the Jack Adams Trophy for Coach of the Year in the NHL. And, I didn't just, who do I think? I talked to people.
That's right.
And I said, hey, these are the two people I'm considering. You had to write 3 names in. I go, I'm going to write this name in because they're a great team. But here are 2 other guys I'm considering. And I would talk to other people. I talked to other broadcasters. I talked to a couple scouts. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking because of X, Y. Am I right? Am I thinking on this right way? And I remember one of the I won't say the name who I voted for, but one of the guys, another, why are you voting for him? And I'm like, well, here are my reasons. Bing, boom, boom, boom. No one else is going to vote for him. I'm like, well, does that mean he's not worthy?
Right.
Like, can I make the case that this guy's worthy because of X, Y, and Z? And it was just it was a fun debate. So, so I was somebody like who may have affected a coach's bonus. Right, because I had a vote. Right. And whether that's fair or not, I don't know. That's just how it is.
Right. Right. So take that to, an exponential level.
It wasn't 30 million, I'm sure of that.
And here's the problem. I mean, we can talk about it until we're blue in the face about, should these votes be tied to finances? Fine. They are. We're not changing that right now. But you're talking about the process you went through to make your decision.
Yes.
You can't tell me that money is not a driving factor of these decisions. You can't tell me people weren't voting for Kemba Walker thinking, oh yeah, he's been a great soldier in this league for 10 years on a bad Charlotte franchise. It's time for him to go get paid. There's no question. There were certain votes directed at him getting the Supermax contract.
Well,
no question. And that's the wrong way to vote.
Let me ask you this question. Are we naive to think that people weren't lobbying for Kemba Walker to people who had votes?
There's always a bias.
There's definitely lobbying, but I thought you were going to take the other angle. What about the vice versa? Don't you think there were people saying, no, we can't let Klay Thompson be doing that on that team, right? He's already won 5 championships or whatever it's going to be. You have to think that in the back of their mind, people are thinking, we've got to keep him from maxing out. sort of an angry vote.
The bigger question is there's always a bias involved in these, one way or the other. Where it's human nature. There's always I don't like that guy. He stiffed me. He was rude to me in an interview. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like you said, I'm tired of those guys winning everything. I'm not going to vote. Let's be honest. That's where any of these votes, when you start tying them to contracts and player status, is a slippery slope, because you got to tell me who are the people doing the voting, and do they all have the right intentions?
Well, and there's also the if you want to call it bias, whatever, but Klay Thompson. Wow, he wouldn't be anything without Curry and Durant.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So there's that factored in there. Like he's the third wheel, if you will. Yes. If you had to rank Warriors in order. So, I can see how he got left off. But that's astonishing that it's going to cost $30 million on a max contract for Klay Thompson. Does that make it more likely, though, that he's a Warrior next year?
Well,
because it's not going to be as much money.
It's possible. It's the same. It's going to be the same couple of salaries, essentially. Well, it's the same first salary. No, it won't. I lied. It's a couple million less. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be here. Does it change the course of anyone else in that team, though?
Meaning Kevin Durant? Meaning they could pay him more now? Is what you're saying?
No, maybe. Maybe they weren't able to max Kevin Durant out if they had to super max Klay Thompson and already have a max deal on Steph Curry and essentially a upper level deal on Draymond Green that's about to expire in 2 years. It certainly makes the finances a little bit easier, not a ton easier, but a little bit easier.
Because they are paying a tax. Correct, the Warriors? Yeah, they're paying a ton of money in a luxury tax. There's no...
I can't even imagine. I would love to be a fly on the wall of their financial situation. They're building a new stadium. They're going to be in a new arena next year.
Right in downtown San Francisco.
Right. Just nuts. It has to be nuts money, right, what they're doing in that city. They're going... Their process is what? Are they 11 months playing basketball? Does it ever shut down that system? There's no vacations, right? They're bleeding money in that organization constantly, not to mention these payrolls. So I'm not even sure it's feasible. It's ever been feasible to give Kevin Durant a max contract in Golden State.
I think back to your original point, if the Warriors win this championship without Kevin Durant, I think that brings up the hard discussion about, do we need him? That's a crazy thing to say, but right. Do we need him? Do the Warriors have to sit and say, we just showed we can win with other pieces in other ways? Are we willing to go to the extremes that Mike is talking about with luxury tax and all, and maybe losing other players that you want to? Yeah. Or do you say, you know what, Kevin, you were great. Thank you. You did a wonderful job here. Go grab your headlines and your riches somewhere else. We'll be fine.
Well, I think I'll look at the New England Patriots for this example.
Great example.
Yeah. Right? They have done a great job of moving on from players. Yeah, and the first one that really... correct me if I'm wrong, Richard Seymour was like the first big player that they said, all right, we're going to
And that was a shocker because he was playing great, and it was that nobody saw that coming. Now we've sort of taught ourselves to look 2 years down the road to see which Patriots are going to be free agents and start to think about preparing for them to do that. But you're right. Richard Seymour was the first one. You're like, whoa, nobody does that. Well, nobody gets rid of their
10 years ago,
really
right
good players.
Yeah, right before the season to the
Raiders.
They got
a first-round pick for him, first and second, I think.
But I think the point was they knew, and in today's analytical world, like there's a chart. Gosh, there was a chart 12 years ago in hockey. Like, okay, here's where a player starts his decline on average, right? Even the elite players. So Durant. And heck, maybe this injury is part of it, but they know there's going to be a decline in Kevin Durant's play. And so maybe it's not next year, maybe it's not 2 years, but maybe it's 4 years down the road. But if you got him on a max contract and that it might be tough to move because you're paying him so much money and he's not producing as much, then you say, okay, I'm going to let him go. Because I know I have players who are still going to perform. Klay Thompson, I may get more out of him under a max deal, a cheaper max deal,
and let's not lose,
than I will for Durant.
Let's not lose sight of the fact that you've built up enough goodwill with your fan base in order to do things like that, which is back to the Patriots discussion a little bit, which is for another time and place. But I think Warriors fans would understand if they made that decision to let him walk away. You still got the other guys there. You've won with him. You've won without him. Ticket sales are not going to plummet.
Right. I mean, is Klay Thompson more of Seth Curry's Scottie Pippen than Kevin Durant is? Right? Because
I want to say yes.
Well, I just think of the Bulls, right? You had Jordan and Pippen, and then Grant was there but you filled in the holes all around him.
Thompson is definitely the Pippen.
Kerr, the coach, coach of the Warriors.
Well, that's why
one of those guys.
Listen, this is why I bring it up.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing here.
Yeah.
Thompson is he's a better Scottie Pippen, a way better Scottie Pippen, right? I mean,
don't tell that to Scottie Pippen. I think
is.
Pippen even said something along those lines, didn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, defensively, maybe Pippen.
Pippen was better defensively.
No,
Thompson's
not better.
I'd take Pippen defensively.
Pippen, I think, was better.
Pippen. Come on.
Pippen was great.
Are was a great defender. Great defender. And he could defend, I think, most all positions.
I think Klay Thompson's up there. Klay Thompson and Kawhi Leonard are not too far apart defensively right now. Kawhi's better.
I'd take Kawhi.
Me too.
I'd probably take Kawhi over Pippen defensively.
Crazy? Not to get off topic here. You know what's crazy? Kawhi Leonard is definitely hurt. Right? He's either having some sort of massive cramping or there's something with his lower body hurt, and he's still defending the best player on the court right now. It's not. I mean, he's not driving to the basket. He's not running in transition. He's clearly not healthy, but he's still a hell of a defender.
Yeah. The money is still to be decided, but could this year have gone any better for Kawhi Leonard in everything that he probably wanted to accomplish to get away from the Toronto, get away from the San Antonio, it's Popovich's system, whatever, become a star, do it in a place where you normally wouldn't think guys would do it because it's Toronto, but he's become the star of a country. That's when you play in Toronto and you play well, you're not just a big guy in Toronto, you're a big guy in an entire country.
Let's not forget about two things on this topic. They fired their coach because he couldn't get him out of the first round again. This is a brand new coach.
Yeah.
And they traded their best player.
Yeah.
This past offseason, that's what they did this past summer.
Yeah,
but they didn't just
look where they are.
They didn't just trade him for anybody.
No,
they traded for Kawhi Leonard.
No, but they did.
Right.
That was the face of the franchise for a lot of years.
Yes,
DeMar DeRozan, and they shipped him out, and the city wept, and they were miserable because remember Kawhi was
They didn't think he would come.
Kawhi was a mess.
They didn't think he would even come.
And his agents actually said they didn't know if they were going to come. There was a time when they did not want to be in Canada when this trade happened, and they were figuring out how not to be going.
He may single-handedly have changed the perception of what playing in Toronto means to a lot of professional athletes.
He'll only change it if he stays.
True.
In my opinion. And he's been offered a free use of a multi-million dollar or $1 million condo, whatever, in Toronto, right? Yeah.
I heard that. Is that how they is that the tax lift?
Well, I don't think the teams offered him that. Well, it's like someone,
air quotes, right?
Yeah.
It's like Tom Brady. Yeah, you're only making $15 million. Air quotes.
Very, very nice. A couple of items here on these free agents, right? I mean, you have Klay Thompson, you have Durant, you have Kawhi Leonard. I mean, these are three huge names among some other very good players this offseason. But if Durant never wins again. I think this is an interesting thing you have in the notes for the show here. If he never wins again, either it would be Golden State or elsewhere, what impact?
Yeah, what is his legacy?
Yeah, what's his legacy?
Because, wasn't he back-to-back finals MVP?
I believe so.
Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
But what happens if Golden State wins this year and he's sitting home? Is that how we remember him?
A little bit. I don't think it's inevitable that's how you're going to remember him a little bit.
Right?
Yeah. Listen, he's an excellent player. There's no question about it. He's a great player.
But he's probably playing 6-7 more years. He's 30, going on 30.
Sure.
And if he doesn't win any of those years, if he goes to the Knicks and they're the
if he goes to the Knicks, he's guaranteed not to win.
Yeah, right. But if he doesn't win for the next 6 years, what are we looking back on Kevin Durant with? Couldn't win without the guys who won without him?
I think that's a little unfair.
It has to be.
It's unfair. He's a great player. He's a great player.
All right, let me ask you this question. So where does his legacy fit? All right, let's say he goes on and doesn't win. I'm going to compare, and this is going to be unfair to a guy who seems awesome, and I was like crying on the jersey swap thing, right? Mm-hmm. The video they did.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade, right? Dwayne Wade, Hall of Fame player, won a title with Shaq in Miami, and then won with LeBron.
Yeah.
All right? So you could say he hadn't won without a better player, a greater player with him, and so you could say the same for Durant, right?
I think you have to right now.
Correct.
Because
he's Scottie Pippen. He's Scottie Pippen.
Was he better than Russell Westbrook? Do we agree on that?
Boy, you know what? They're different kind of players.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you could compare the two of them.
I'm just wondering if he's been the best guy in the room yet. I mean, that's the goal, right? That's the goal of free agency this year, is to go and be the best player on the team.
Sure, and you can argue he hasn't. You can argue that he's not.
Or is he smart enough to recognize that the goal for him isn't necessarily to be the best player in the room, but be in a position to be the best team and to win the championships? And if anybody has seen that, it's been Durant,
then
right?
Don't leave. Then you can't leave. Then you can't leave. You're forfeiting the chance at least one more.
Yeah, probably. But I also get that a lot of players win and then want to prove to themselves and to the world that they can do it on their own, or maybe be that number one guy or that leader. And I wouldn't fault Kevin Durant for saying it's time for me to see if I can't be one of those guys now.
Boy, I'm trying to think of a comparison for Kevin Durant among the great players in the history of the NBA. And because he's a scorer.
Yeah.
He scores.
7 foot.
Right.
Do everything score.
Yeah.
But that's I don't want to say that's all. I mean, you need to score to win, but he's a scorer.
Yeah.
And maybe Nowitzki is a nice comparison.
Not bad.
Big guy who's a great shooter, scores a basketball. I never considered Dirk a great defender. I don't consider Durant a great defender. Mm-hmm. So kind of one-dimensional, but it's a huge dimension, scoring. Yeah. It sounds weird to say, right? But I'm just saying he's a scorer of the basketball. And he does it in a, he'll pull up. I mean, he'll drive, but it's not his game. It's more of a pullback, jump, shoots over everybody, and makes everything.
And I think it's a little unfair, and I think your Nowitzki comparison is safe, but in this day and age of the NBA where these guys have won multiple championships, winning only one is like, he just won one. I mean, that's a little unfair. It's a lot unfair, I think.
It is.
Dirk Nowitzki, who's been a great player, he's only won the one championship, right?
Yeah.
So when we compare him and have a discussion like this next to Curry and all the other, and Jordan and Bird and LeBron, you're like, he's low on the list. That's really not fair, I think.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that statement. It absolutely is not fair. But, I don't even look at it that. See, I think Nowitzki's fantastic. Great player.
Oh, my gosh.
And to win a title in Dallas? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, come on. Like, it's not diminished at all. It's like if the Clippers ever won, right? Mm-hmm. It's like if Lillard won one in Portland. Like, amazing, right? So, maybe never mind. I'm going to stop comparing things.
No, I love it. In my opinion, he has got to win one on his own. He's got to win one.
To be considered what? One of the greats of all time?
To get out of this conversation. To get out of he's always got to be the second fiddle guy. He's got to. He's got to.
You're right. It just bothers me that it's incredibly unfair for us to sit here and say he's got to get out of that conversation.
LeBron did it.
But that's the era we're in.
I know.
I mean, we're taking for granted the Warriors in general because it's impossible to understand what they're doing. It's like talking about the Patriots and these ridiculous AFC East titles. It's just nuts.
Yeah, the domination is incredible.
Ridiculous. It's nuts. But
which is a nice way to roll into if we're ready to talk about what we think is going to happen in this series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the odds here. Like, let's talk about the betting odds, right?
Well, I waited because I wanted to know if they were going to announce Durant. They did announce Durant. He's out game one, probably for a while. Is something torn, by the way?
Gotta be.
I mean, if he's out this long, it has to be.
It's a strained calf. That's a sick cow, man.
Yeah, strained and torn, right?
Yeah. Probably, I mean, that's just it's been a long time for something like that. And, for his game, he needs that explosiveness.
I'm going to guess all three of us here sitting here take the Warriors.
Yes.
In the series, right?
Yes.
Anyone sweep?
No, I think the Raptors
Kawhi is a great enough player to single-handedly prevent that from happening.
The money on the sweep is actually a little better than not sweep. The odds are for a 5-6 game series. So if you want to win some money on the Warriors,
right,
bet the sweep. My point to bringing this up today is I think game one is the one to talk about, right? Because Golden State doesn't go on the road game one. That doesn't happen to this team. They're going to Toronto without Durant. There's been a layoff, a big layoff, which always has some first period rust. Maybe not with this team. We'll see. There's tons of momentum. I mean, that Toronto finish was just massive, and it was on Kawhi's shoulders. And I don't know how else you want to draw it up from a Toronto standpoint to put them in a position to steal one here, right?
Yeah, and the bigger question is, it's not a far drive for us. We should go up and hang.
I like it.
We should go out and hang up in Jurassic Park.
Yes, we should.
I like it.
With it. Yeah, no, it is going to be interesting. Game one. I think if there is an opportunity for the Raptors to win a game, it is game one.
I think so.
Because they have the home court. I mean, that city is going to be rocking. I'm rooting for the Raptors because I think it would be fascinating to have the Raptors win a title before the Maple Leafs.
Oh. Well, we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago about how Toronto is slowly shifting its
They have to.
sort of what kind of a town it is. We all want the easy assumption of a hockey town, and it is, but we talked a little bit about it a couple weeks ago about how it's starting to shift as its population is shifting to more of a basketball town. If that happens, Kevin, then it's worthy of another discussion.
Listen, it will always be.
Of course it will be.
A hockey town. Always. Always number one. It'll always be. It'll never. They'd have to go on 5 in a row, and they'd still be second. They just would be.
I think it's more of a discussion and a debate than it's certainly ever been in history.
I disagree. I think it'll always be hockey ball. We live in Buffalo. Is this a football town or a hockey town?
It's a football town.
Okay, and it's been a Bills town.
Yep.
And believe me, there were times when I first started covering sports in Buffalo, it was, hey, Sabre season starts when the Bills are done.
Yeah, January.
Yeah,
right.
And all
February
sports,
sometimes.
All sports station, we'd have the production meetings for the afternoon show. All right, Bills lost in the playoffs. Okay, let's get the hockey guy and find out what the hell's going on with the team. Swear to God, that was exactly. Nobody paid attention. Nobody cared.
Yeah, but as your fan base changes, of which Toronto clearly is, then that's how something like that can start to become closer to a 1A than it ever has been before.
Here's my official pick on this. Take the Raptors game one, take the money line on them, parlay that with the under. Because if they're going to win, they're not going to outscore them.
Correct.
They're winning because Kawhi's shutting down somebody, and they're all having mediocre shooting nights.
What is the over/under?
215.
Ooh, boy, that's
a good number, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a great.
But it's the only way to win money. You get three.
Yeah.
You get
108, 107.
You get 3-1 odds if you parlay Toronto with the under.
I think he's right. I think the game's in the 90s. The Raptors can win.
Yeah.
If we get into triple digits, look out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dunsky. They know how to win close games. They've won close games in the playoffs here. All right, hey, we're going to shift to football here. I want to tell you about Dynasty Owner. It's the first Dynasty salary cap fantasy sports game. We've been telling you about it, where week to week you use actual contracts and salaries. You have the roster power of both coach and GM. You play for Dynasty dollars. It's the virtual currency used to play the game. You can rack those dollars up each week, whether you win or lose your matchup, and you can use them to build that dynasty long-term, year to year. And the bench. In Dynasty Owner, your bench earns a percentage of the performances that week, because a true dynasty is built with a deep bench, like the Raptors. Dynasty Owner even allows you to exceed the salary cap. You can go all in. There will be luxury tax fines, though, just like the real sports world. It's the first game to combine week-to-week fantasy sports gaming with long-term ownership and GM strategy. Stop playing fantasy sports. Own it. Go to dynastyowner.com. Sign up for the 2019 beta draft. We've got suspensions in the NFL, and
interesting suspensions
Yeah.
of unlike any other suspensions that have probably ever happened before.
The Ben Watson one,
Yep.
With the Patriots, fascinating. He went to Facebook to explain himself.
It was very interesting to read. You almost never get that kind of insight into why these things happen.
So, folks, Ben Watson's 38 years old. He planned to retire, but never officially filed paperwork. And as he said, I'm going to paraphrase here, he goes to the doctor every year, and they're like, wear and tear. We're going to give you some testosterone to help these things. And that's a banned substance, if you couldn't figure that out in the NFL. And then he gets inquiries and takes a test, right? Because he hadn't officially retired. They random test. So,
right.
Whatever. I'm going to take the test, and at least this is where I give him credit. At least he didn't say, I went to GNC and got something over the counter and didn't know what was in it. Right? He admitted to taking it, so he's going to be suspended for 4 games to start the year.
Now, he says teams all knew this when they started negotiating.
Let's start there. This is
You're not buying it?
That's part of my point in bringing this up, because this is all as transparent as it's ever been, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You just laid it out. This is all out in the open. It's not some beat reporter uncovering this.
Yes,
and you can't blame him. He thought he was done. He wanted to bring his body back to life, and here we are. I want to talk about the Patriots, who
are the ones that signed him.
Sat with him. No, there was a couple teams. I forget the other team. He sat with a couple of teams and blatantly told them, "I'm going to be suspended."
The Browns,
I failed the drug
the
test.
Browns were one of them too. I think going back to the Browns.
So they did this. They did this deal, knowing full off that they were going to lose him for 4 games, and that just doesn't feel right with me. Does it not feel right with you guys?
It feels exactly right when it comes to the Patriots, because the Patriots do this all the time. The Patriots know the okay.
Put it aside.
You're telling me the Patriots putting the first half of the season aside when it comes to particular players doesn't
Is it
apply
just because
here?
it's the Patriots? Would no other team do this?
I think a lot of other teams would not do it, knowing he wasn't going to be there for 4 games.
You have a bigger issue with this than who's a running back from the Chiefs who was
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt and the Browns picking him up.
No.
All right, that's a bigger issue to me.
I would rather the domestic violence be more of a damning result.
Okay. I mean, they picked him up knowing that, all right, if he's found guilty of this stuff, and he'll be suspended.
They knew he was going to be suspended, for sure.
Right.
Similar, but to me, different scenarios.
Different scenarios, but similar under the suspension.
You're right. They knew and they still signed him.
But
Reuben Foster, they knew and they still signed him. Yeah.
But is your issue more of, hey, this is a guy who has taken a performance-enhancing drug. You know it. You're going to sign him anyways. Is that your point of contention?
I want to put this into the pot of, is the league doing enough with these suspensions to actually make this matter?
Deterrence.
Because if the Patriots don't care that this guy's going to miss a third of the season and they're still signing
I don't
him,
think they do.
They don't care.
They don't. I mean, the most recent example is kind of the way they babied Gronk through the season until he was healthy enough to be the guy they needed him to be when it mattered the most, which is the last 6 games of the year in the playoffs.
All right, before we go into maybe how this can change, not only did they sign him, but they structured his contract knowing that this was all going to happen, knowing pretty much exactly what the finances were going to be and how much he was going to get suspended and all that stuff. They probably did their homework, and I mean, they've had guys like this before in the past, as you mentioned. They made incentives that work out almost to the dollar of the money he's going to lose for those first 4 games. And they made him extremely likely to be earned. I mean,
of course.
It's like show up for a third of the year, 35% of the snaps, and you'll make back all that $558,000 you lost. So it's all as transparent as ever.
That's the can you tie your shoes incentive.
That's it. Just come sit on the bench. We'll get you this money back. No problem. But that's what it feels like. It feels like they're making a joke out of this.
So you're mad there's not enough of a deterrent for skirting the law, skirting the rules.
Look, they did the same thing with Tom Brady before Deflategate.
Right.
When they knew that was coming and they knew there was going to be some sort of penalty for it, they took that base salary and restructured it into a signing bonus and let him take that. And because it's not a drug suspension, he doesn't have to pay that signing bonus back at all. He only has to pay out of the 1/17 of that base salary, which was $1 million at the end of the day. They restructured it down to $1 million, and that was his suspension. Was 4 games?
4 games.
4/17 of $1 million. So again, they're laughing at the league, like, yeah, you can do this, but we're going to make it as minimal as possible.
Well,
you
could say they're laughing at the league, or the other side, you could say they're incredibly smart about the way they're doing this.
Well, and if you're Watson, you're thinking about retiring. What's the incentive to come? Well, geez, if you're going to sign me for $1 million,
that's the incentive,
right? No, but I'm saying, but if you can only pay me $1 million, I'm going to lose 4/17. How do I get that back? So I make the $1 million to put my body through this one more.
Also, not starting until November probably sounds pretty good to him.
Sounds great to him.
Right.
And playing for the Patriots sounds great to him, too.
Right.
I mean, back to what we talked about, is it related to the NBA? It's the Patriots have the ability to do things in the NFL and sign players in the NFL or trade them that no other teams in the league do because they're the Patriots and because of the way they're structured. Here's the exact opposite example of when we talked about Richard Seymour. Ben Watson wants to play for the team that likely is going to get him to a Super Bowl.
And they offered him a free apartment. No, they did not. I'm just, that's a Kawhi Leonard thing there. Yeah, no, I know what you're I know what you're saying. I know what you're getting at here. Yeah. Like, how can the league let this happen where a guy's going to be suspended and not pay a price for it whatsoever. But the argument is, well, the team that signs him is going to pay the price. They're not going to have him for 4 games. But we're talking about
quarter of the season.
We're talking about the golden marker of a franchise here, the Patriots. They don't care.
If it's not the quarterback, does it even matter? And I know it didn't matter when they lost the quarterback either.
Right.
But
right.
If it's not the quarterback, does it even matter that guy's taking 4 games off?
Not to them, it
most
doesn't.
people take 4 games off for injuries anyway?
Not for tight end, no. No, you're right.
And
no.
not to them. It's other teams and other players it does.
I think the easiest change, and we'll move through this. I think the easiest change is the move that baseball made. Baseball did something proactively right for once here.
Yes,
right.
Their drug suspensions are severe.
It not only is it money; it's 80 games. I mean, it's generally a third, a half, or a whole season, depending on how many times or how severe. But when they took the ability to not play in the postseason off, when that got changed, that changed everything. To me, that changed everything. You're not seeing the major players now who want to be in the postseason because that's the part of their career that matters the most. Those guys aren't doing it. Sans, Robinson, Cano last year. That's got to change, because if that was the case, the Patriots are never signing Ben Watson. Never.
No, you're right.
Never.
Let me ask you guys this. I mean, so Ben Watson tested positive, got caught. Notice my 2 words there. Got caught.
Yeah.
I mean, are we naive to think that many players aren't doing something, and they aren't, the percent, I don't know how many players are tested. I don't know.
I just heard it as we're driving over here. I heard an interview on ESPN Radio with Chris Long, who has made some comments in the last couple weeks about the marijuana. Yep. And for those people that didn't know it, you should know it. But if you didn't, you get tested once for marijuana, and they tell you when the test is going to be. So if you don't smoke marijuana the 3 weeks or however long you need to before the test, and you pass the test, guess what? You can smoke it the rest of the year.
We've had agents on the show. Shane Costa, remember?
It's ridiculous.
That's like his one job during the season.
Yes.
It's like, okay, this is going to be your date. Take a month off.
Yes.
Get ready, and then you're good to go. Right? Like, all right.
You only get randomly tested if you fail the first one. That's for, I don't know if people don't always understand
but
that.
That's for marijuana. That's
Correct.
not for performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
It's random. It's a random. It's a random test. I'm not sure how the parameters of that work exactly.
Neither do I. But I'm just saying, like, they can cycle on, cycle off things. I mean, those. It's been known. That's how. Listen, the physical demands of playing that game are incredible, right? So
part of me thinks they should just allow it.
Yeah, the other thing, like if marijuana helps guys ease their pain instead of taking Vicodin and painkillers that they get addicted to,
that's a whole other.
That was the point Chris Long made. Yes. I can drink a 6-pack or I can smoke a marijuana cigarette.
Right.
What's the difference?
Well, I can tell you the difference is you're sitting around with your buddies drinking beer, telling stories. That's probably more fun.
True.
I don't know the other part.
What do you think, though? What do you think? Is it too strict to take postseason away for a drug suspension?
It's a great deterrent. Whether everybody is it too strict is defined by who you're asking.
I think for first time I think if you're a repeat offender, yes, postseason gone. Right. I think if you get caught once, 4 games, maybe you do 6. I don't know, but. The fine, losing the income, losing 4 games, which the theory is, well, a quarter of your season will affect your ability to make the postseason if you're that important enough of a player. But I think if you're a repeat offender, then boom, you miss a playoff game.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to money. 4 games is 4 salary checks. Postseason, you don't get paid in the postseason. So now, is it a money thing? Is it a pride thing? Is it a playoffs? Is it a legacy? What determines that? Mike, you said there's been 9 suspensions already this year after only 16 last year. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, we're on the rise here. 2017 was big. It was in the 20s. It was mid-20s. So it actually came down a little bit in 2018. 16, I mean, that's still a lot of suspensions. But it's not even June, and we've had 9 posted. Substance abuse / PED suspensions, notably Patrick Peterson, which, man, that came out of nowhere.
Really came out of nowhere.
But you can't have those guys getting suspended.
Your star players.
You can't have that. And that's what I mean. Something's got to give, whether it's more team accountability, whether it's longer suspensions, or where we implement this postseason policy. I just think with this next CBA, the players certainly won't be for it, but if the teams should bring this up, because the teams it shouldn't be so easy for the Patriots to walk in a room with Ben Watson, who sit there saying, I'm going to get suspended for 4 games. Are you still going to sign me? Oh, yeah, we'll just move some money around. No big deal. I mean, that's what this was. This took 5 minutes.
Do you remember the scene on? Did you watch Ballers? At all?
Yeah.
All right, when the receiver, his buddy's going to sign him, who's the former offensive lineman from the Dolphins. I forget the names of the characters, but whatever. And he signs him. He goes, anything I need to know? Anything you got to tell me? Anything? No. And he was taking steroids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And didn't tell him.
Yeah, just be honest,
Ricky
right?
Jarrett, right? The wide receiver.
Wow, Paul, very good there. All right, let's move on to Major League Baseball here, and the draft, or should we call it draft dodging?
Yeah, this is quite a story. So quickly, we'll go through the draft situation. It starts next Monday.
It lasts like 3 weeks.
No, it's 3 days. It's 3 days. It does feel forever. It feels like forever because these guys don't make it for years. I mean, it's just an arduous process to get to the major leagues in baseball still, which maybe that's changing.
There's a kid 12U in my son's league that's up for the. No, I'm kidding.
There should be a couple local kids, though, by the way. Keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Keep an eye on that. A couple local kids. Yeah, there's plenty of room. I mean, there's tons of rounds. But as I've done with these other sports, I did a quick chart here of how it breaks down in terms of guys in the league right now and where they were drafted, if they were drafted, all that stuff. And as you can imagine, the most players in the league are international players. They are not first rounders. They're not undrafted players. They're international signings.
So explain that, how international players don't go into the draft system. That's why we call it draft dodging.
Right? Yeah, they're playing in Cuba. They're playing in Dominican. They're brought up through the system. I mean, they're scouted. You're joking,
right.
But they're scouted at age 12.
Yes.
But if they can field the ground ball and make a throw to first, they're being scouted.
They go to a camp then. Yes.
They go to
Those
academies.
baseball academies.
They go to these formal academies, which in many senses is much better training than any kids in America get.
Sure.
Most Americans get. So yeah, we've long come from that generation is coming to. It's here and it's now dominating. I mean, there's 225 international signed players in the league right now. That's 40 more than first-round picks. There's 190 first-round picks in the league right now. So.
By the way, why hasn't or has there ever been any discussion about opening the draft up to the international players, much like every other sport does, hockey and basketball?
Oh, it's just that it's money, Paul.
It is money.
The teams can fund
investing in the players early in their lives and don't want to lose the investments.
The teams fund the academies, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, there's some great documentaries on that with ex-players and all that opening up and coaching and running. It's really well done. There's no question. There's no wonder why these guys are great players the second they get here, and that's why they're dominating. I mean,
so is it working that we don't need to mess with it, or is that up for perception and determination?
Do you love baseball, or do you love America's pastime? I think it's the question, right? Because it's quickly becoming an international sport.
Yeah, no question.
And if you're a traditionalist that wants this to be America's game, I think those days are clearly done. I mean, your stars are not Americans.
Well, you know what? You know what's fascinating about the Bryant Gumbel just had a commentary at the end of Real Sports.
I watched it.
Did you watch it?
I did.
What did you think about
his saucy?
Yes, I mean, what did you think about his commentary about how the game is now and the decline in attendance, viewership, in baseball because of this? And he's blaming the new brand of baseball and what it is.
Yes.
Which I think there's a fair argument for that for Bryant Gumbel.
It is a fair argument. We've talked about it a lot on here, especially with the guys like Trout. It's just a poorly marketed league. It just truly is. And it's not just that there's launch angles and shifts and things like that now that make it even nerdier than it ever was, which is why I love it even more than ever. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It couldn't be a more strategic game now, but yeah, it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. Look at you and I both coach, little league teams and things like that. Kids still love it. I mean, you're flooding kids to the field every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They love to play it as kids, but I bet you they don't love to watch it on TV like you and I.
You're correct.
I bet you can't get them to sit down for more than 2 innings.
No.
So that's the disconnect. That's the gap. The gap is even if you bring them to the ballpark and buy them a dog and a Pepsi and sit down next to them, it's tough to hold their attention to these games. And you would think home runs would change that, but too much of a good thing isn't a good thing anymore. And that's what Gumbel was saying is essentially if you marginalize the game to where it's one thing, like it's a one-trick pony, which is what it is. Somebody's striking out or they're going 450 into the upper deck, then that's what people expect. And anything else is boring. I watched 4 Mets games.
It's a lot of walks.
Weekend.
It's a lot of foul balls.
The
it's
most
a lot of
exciting thing I saw this weekend, guys, was Todd Frazier hit a butcher boy to beat the shift. You know what a butcher boy is?
I've never heard of that.
You go to bunt, you pull it back, and you hit.
Yeah.
It blew the announcers' minds. They almost ran off the field. I mean, it was unbelievable. But those days are done. Small ball's done. So it's all how you perceive the game, how you grew up with the game. If I have no problem with the international side of it at all, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, if these guys are true baseball, I mean, these academies are doing a phenomenal job to make them 5-tool players, which is the kind of player that I crave. So I'm with Bryant Gumbel, maybe not to that degree. I mean, you have to evolve. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to evolve, right? I mean, the game's got to change. They just got to market this thing better.
Yet all the revenues are up, right? The revenues are
up as much as they can,
which is why it's sometimes hard to change the way it's being done.
Well, here's my quick opinion on this: why baseball is not as popular with kids as it was when we were
from
kids.
A viewership standpoint. Yeah,
not only but overall from a marketing standpoint. When we were kids, and I'm a little older than you are, Mike. Paul's a little older than I am, but we're all generally the same within 10 years category. And when I was a kid, growing up in Central New York, you got one game a week. Right, so I couldn't wait for that game to come on.
Game of the week, Saturday afternoon, Monday night. Yep,
there were
Monday night.
2, maybe 3 brands of baseball cards, but you couldn't buy the pack unless you went right. You had to collect them all, and you traded them with your buddies. There weren't all these action packs or whatever jerseys in there. None of that stuff. Baseball was just this romantic thing. The highlights. You knew who the stars were. They had candy bars, all that stuff. There wasn't as heavy competition from the NBA. There wasn't as heavy competition.
The NFL wasn't the behemoth that it
NFL,
is now.
yeah. The NFL, the class of 83 quarterbacks hadn't really come into their prime yet with baseball. And our dads, that was their sport.
Sure.
Baseball.
Because the 50s, 40s and 50s
right.
and 60s, it was baseball. You know where it hits me, Kevin? The All-Star Game. When we were kids, the All-Star Game was an event. I would never miss it. It was an event. You had to get the chance to see, really for one of the few times all year, the players that you'd been hearing about, the guys on the Dodgers or the Padres or out west or the Cardinals. You didn't see them every time, and it was a big deal. The stars, one after another, and now the All-Star Game, I have very little interest in watching it. I don't think I'm in the minority. It's become sort of this who cares? Correct. I see these guys all the time. Why do I need to see them together in one big game?
That's part of my point because of the advances of cable television, on-demand stuff. Like if I want to watch the Rockies play the Mariners in interleague game, I can do it.
Yep.
Right? If I want to watch the Astros play the Rangers, I can do it. And I live in New York. Where it used to be all I got were Yankees and Mets games. If my local station picked up a Yankees game, or the game of the week when Tony Kubek and Joe Garagiola were doing that. And I learned about the other players by watching This Week in Baseball with Mel Allen.
That's correct.
It was just phenomenal, right? I mean, great stuff. And you're right. The All-Star Game is the only time I got to see Steve Garvey play, unless he was in the World Series with the Dodgers or the Padres at one time.
Sadly enough, he just passed away. But a lot of us that are old enough have great memories of Bill Buckner beyond what happened in the '86 World Series. He was a great player. He was one of those guys with the Cubs and the Dodgers before that, where you didn't see him very often, and you only saw him on those occasions in an All-Star game or in the postseason when the Dodgers were in there a lot. And for me, like Mike, as a kid who grew up as a Mets fan, Bill Buckner has a prominent place in one of our greatest moments as a Mets fan, but I remember him so much more than that.
Behind the bag!
It gets through Buckner and the Mets win it!
I have a signed photograph of that play with Mookie Wilson, who signed it, and Bill Buckner, who signed it.
Nice. There you go. Incredible.
So there you go. That's a play for me.
But yeah, I mean, kids today, boy, they just, there's so many other things that have their attention too that baseball doesn't. Right?
We're a football generation now. There was a baseball generation with our parents and for our lives into the 70s and in the 80s. It's now a football generation. Now football has taken that spot of the play of the number one sport where a father takes his son and watches with his kids. That's the difference.
But I still think there's a romanticism about going to a game. Going to the ballpark, the feel of it, sitting in the seats, getting the guy coming up saying hot dogs, peanuts, beer, right?
You just used the perfect word, the romanticizing of it.
Yeah.
Is that the problem?
Yeah, I think it is.
Are those days done in sports?
Yes.
Don't we need somebody hurt?
Yes.
Suspended?
When I'm going to root for a guy that my team just signed, even though I know he's suspended for the first 4 games.
Aren't these guys just too damn nice? Aaron Judge, Mookie Betts, Mike Trout. I mean, Harper's got a little bit of an edge, and we classify him to be a monster compared to these guys.
Well, Batista with the
Machado doesn't run to
thing.
first base, and we can't pay that guy anymore. What are you talking about?
Well, I think of let's meld the baseball to the football story we were talking about. I think of Braun from the Brewers, right? MVP, and he gets right? This All-American boy here, and all of a sudden, boom! What does he do? He's suspended for drugs.
Yeah. And if you're a Patriots fan, you're excited about Ben Watson, about what he might be able to do at a position that you have your doubts about, and you're more than okay in letting him sit out the first 4.
It's not even your opinion of what happens. It's that there are constant, unique news. In the NFL. It's not just X's and O's. And that's what baseball is. All the news we talk about in baseball is the shift and lack of bunting and the launch angles of home runs and how many strikeouts and how the ball might be juiced. And football's got all these different angles of talk line. You know what I mean? All the time.
You want to know why? You know what the first thing that pops into my head? Baseball, you see them every day. They play every day.
It's saturation.
Football, it's that week between football games that everybody from the media to the fans needs to build themselves up for. And in the world that we live in now, it used to just be X's and O's. Yeah. How do you stop that guy? How do you defend this guy? Now in the world that we live in, it's become everything of a week's. Sometimes to me, this makes me uncomfortable as more of a traditional sports fan. The build up to the game is bigger than the game itself sometimes.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Well, I also think baseball, if we're talking about kids, the next generation here, we've gone down this wormhole, they have to speed up play.
Yeah, it's coming.
I mean, it has to happen. Yeah. They've got to get quicker.
It's not a fast-paced enough
game. You get one called time before you get in the box, you do it again, that's a strike. Yeah. I don't care if it's a strike 3, get the hell out of think about it. When I watch our kids play Little League games, it's bang, 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 right? I mean, the majors, it's like, what? Get in the freaking box and pitch the ball and hit the ball. Like, come on. This is crazy. You throw it 98 miles per hour, just zip it by the guy. If he hits it, then he hits the damn ball. All this shaking off, mound visits, shifting, and believe me, there's another part of it, the announcers. Right? I mean, they do a great job, but there's only so much they can. There's only so much chicken salad you can make out of, you know what. All right.
Last thing. Let's get to this Carter Stewart story. Did you guys hear about this? You guys know this Carter Stewart situation?
No.
All
right. He was a 2018 number 8 overall draft pick for the Braves last year, right? And this sort of wraps a bow around this conversation we had with the international side of the game and all of this. Number 8 overall selection last year. He was supposed to make about a $5 million slotted bonus. He's got an ankle issue. There's some long-term projection issues on him. He gets offered $2 million. Doesn't take it, right? Says, no, I'm going back to junior college. I'll start this over again, try to get drafted somewhere else. He goes to junior college, has a year.
Yeah.
Comes back. He's a second-round prospect. So his bonus from his $5 million last year is down to like $1.8 million this year in projected bonus. So he bails. He says, I'm not even going to the draft. He signs a 6-year, $7 million contract with a team in Japan. Right? Fully guaranteed. Starts in a couple of weeks. He's going to be playing a full 6 seasons. And if he does, per the terms of the MLB CBA, he will be granted veteran status. So he gets $7 million to play for the next 6 years. And then he will become eligible to be a free agent in Major League Baseball and make as much money as he wants.
And
he's going to go first top prospect to go this route,
right?
Earn that kind of money, and then essentially cash in at age 25.
And he doesn't have to play A-ball.
No A-ball. No
A-ball.
$25,000 minor league salary. I mean, I just did a quick breakout. Like if he plays 2 years in minors, comes up for 4 years, of pre-arbitration and then 1 year of arbitration, he's making like maybe $4.25 million. I mean, he's making way more to go to Japan, way more out of the gate. And then he can sign for $200 million if he's a player, which he will.
Incredibly smart business decision.
It's scary, though, for
personal
baseball.
Life decision. That's not everybody's going to be willing to do that.
This is
he likes sushi, though. So.
Apparently.
Putting words in his mouth already. Didn't even know who the guy was 4 seconds ago.
Hey, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, Mike.
This is the international part of baseball that's scary, though, right? Because we had discussion with WNBA last week, remember?
Yeah.
Where they're making way more money to go play
Overseas
basketball
and international, yep.
and more women are just choosing to do that and not even play here.
Speaking of which, you already brought it up. Real Sports had a really interesting story about Elena Deladon and the battle that she internally deals with about whether to play international because she's a caregiver for her older sister. And it was funny. I'm watching it and I'm like, this is exactly what we talked about. Her spouse wants her to go over there, earn the millions, set them up for life. She wants to stay here and be part with her family.
It was an incredible story.
So those are the two spectrums, right? It's this. Carter Stewart has chosen, I'm leaving my family and my friends, maybe a girlfriend. I'm gone, right? I'm going for 6 years because I can go, not only can I make money, I can play competitive baseball. I mean, those leagues are way better than they've ever been. I make money for 6 years, which I can't do here. I come back and I make big money.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of a game, but it's an international world now, and going to live in Tokyo or wherever he may be living isn't quite what it was. I'll give you my all-time favorite Japanese.
You're still. I mean, a completely. It's not. Yeah, a completely different culture where you're going to stand out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So anyhow,
here's my quick little Japanese baseball story from a guy that I'd gotten to know who played there in the 80s. Not a great player, but a big home run hitter. And he goes over there and they give him his uniform and it's number 50. And he's like, I didn't ask for this. Why am I wearing number 50? And they're like, that's how many home runs we expected.
No pressure.
Great. And now that was generations ago, but great stories about what it was for some of those early guys that went over to play in the Japanese baseball leagues. I think it's a lot different now.
You know Tom Selleck? All right, anyways.
I'll say this because this had been coming, right? There have been rumors about this, and when he decided to not sign last year, it was a big story because, top 10 picks generally get it done. Generally, teams don't lowball the bonuses for those top prospects. And so this was a big story that he decided not to take the $2 million and left. So people have been following him ever since. And there have been rumors that this could happen. And I have to wonder, we saw those rash of extensions for all those 20, 22-year-old kids, not massive money, but you were paying these guys 6 years, $50 million to players who weren't even putting on the uniforms yet. And that had never happened before. I wonder if there was a cause and effect to this, because that is how you change it, right? That is how you stop these prospects from going international and then coming back for the payday, is you pay these guys early, not tons of money, but you give them a $10, $12 million to be here for their pre-arbitration process. So it could be a very, 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 very precedent-setting situation for Carter Stewart if he has changed the way that teams have to pay.
There you go. Not only do we know who Carter Stewart is now, he may set a legacy and a pioneer.
Does he get paid in U.S. currency or the yen?
Question. We got to get Robert for the tax implications, right?
Because the U.S.
tax
dollar
rate in Tokyo.
Yeah, the 1 yen equals 91 cents U.S.
Oh, all right.
So
he might be doing real well.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. It's almost 10%, right? So,
jeez.
Yeah, that would be interesting. All right. Something to keep an eye out for to keep the prospects here. Want to mention a couple things. Make sure you check out the premium section at SpotTrack.com. Become a member, ad-free experience, some other goodies that go along with that. And also remember Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment, our presenting sponsor here in the SpotTrack podcast. Learn more, especially entertainers and athletes, about protecting and making great decisions about your finances and wealth. Go to morganstanley.com/GSE, Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. Till next time, I'm Kevin Sylvester along with Mike Giannetti and Paul Peck here on Spot Track Podcast.